Hello and welcome back to Medins, episode 24, and I'm really excited. I'm also a little nervous every time I do this. It honestly feels like I'm opening up more of my life, and that's a little bit scary. But I'm also thrilled at the same time. We have a couple really cool things to talk about and announce, and the first of which is Welcome to Medins can now be found on Spotify. So I'd encourage you to head on over there, follow our page, and there you'll find new episodes every week for the listening. You can also head on over to our YouTube channel at Welcome to the Medins. Press subscribe and the little notification bell so you can be notified when new episodes come out, along with our daily shorts. And then head on over to our Instagram and follow us there. All of that helps to encourage people to like and follow the channel as well. It's always cool to see kind of the numbers grow and people interact with us. We've been having more comments, more likes, more views, and that's been really encouraging, especially as I'm hoping to be able to make this my future and a form of income for me and my family. But we also have some other cool things. If you're looking to increase your personal scent game, I'd encourage you to check out our partner, Humble. They have amazing smelling deodorants, soaps, and lip balms. They are naturally made, so they're environmentally friendly. Even the packaging in these deodorants are biodegradable on top of the ink that they chose to label their stuff with. So I'd encourage you to go check them out. Use our link in our bio. You'll get an extra 15% off of your order, as well as help support Welcome to the Medins. But let's dive in. So I've been thinking a lot about marriage. And of course, I'm married to the beautiful Michaela Medin. And I am a super blessed guy to be able to have her as my wife. But I've been thinking a lot in terms of just kind of our interactions. Where, in life, no one's ever perfect. And we make different mistakes in communication. We end up misunderstanding each other sometimes, and sometimes we just kind of view things differently. But who doesn't in marriage, especially when you've been blessed enough to be able to marry your opposite, which is something I very specifically prayed for back when I was believing for my wife years ago. And the Lord answered just that in the woman that He gave me. She is so incredibly detail oriented, and it's awesome. Very organized. She's great with numbers. But she's more analytical than I am. And so her thought processes for getting through things are a little bit, there's just a lot more that goes into it, which is great. But I realize that in some of our interactions that we get so frustrated with each other because we're almost communicating on different wavelengths. But when I look back at our discussions in hindsight, I often see that we're communicating the same thing to get to the same end goal. It's just how we get there is different. And in those moments where we get so frustrated with each other, we've, been very honest with one another and at times kind of hurt each other's feelings. But I've been listening to a lot of marriage teachings, have been since before I got married, have been throughout marriage, and still am today. And one thing that I heard recently in one of them that really got me thinking a lot was when you're talking with someone, you're talking to a heart, which I don't know why I never thought about that way, but that very much so blew my mind. Because when I talk with Michaela, or when, anytime any of us talk with anyone, we often just see the person. We see their face, we read their body language, all of that, the tone of their voice. And we think we're just talking to a person. But when I've talked with people, I had never really thought about it that way, that I'm talking to someone's heart. I was just thought, I'm talking to the person. And in that, you want to be sensitive to people as well. But it really opened my eyes this time in thinking about how I talk to Michaela in the times we disagree, in the times that we see things differently. And kind of had to just sit down and look at myself honestly and say, in all those interactions, have I communicated to a heart? Even though I didn't think about it that way then, but was I communicating to a heart? Or was I just communicating to my wife? And discovered that I hadn't thought in terms of the sensitivity of communicating to her heart. That I was talking to my wife's heart. And she is so beautifully sensitive in ways that I am not. In my communication, I'm bold and I'm blunt, and I work very hard not to be disrespectfully blunt, but I get to the point. I don't want to dance around and try and convey a message in hopes that maybe someone will get it. But I just want to communicate to them straight so that way they know this is Sean's point and this is what he means and this is what he's getting at. And not saying that you should dance around topics, but when you approach them, you should be gentle. So anyway, communicating to my wife, I discovered I'd been communicating just very honestly, almost like how I communicate to my brothers or my guy friends, and we communicate like guys. This is my point. This is what I'm getting at, and you just outright call out what it is that they're doing that needs correction or adjustment, depending on the relationship. And I found that I'd gotten too comfortable isn't the right phrase, but when you're with the people that you love the most, you feel like you can open up and just be honest. I felt as though I had gotten to that with my wife rather than the gentle sensitivity I'd had back when we were dating and engaged. And we're only 5 years. We just celebrated 5 years, so. And that's not a super long time, but it's not an extreme short amount of time either. I know couples who have been married, 15, 20, 30, 45, 50, 60 plus years. And they have a lot more, obviously, to teach than I do. But I am close enough to the beginning to remember a lot of those feels and a lot of those sensitivities and intricacies of the flirtation and almost the dating of my spouse. And one guy that I've been listening to, his name is Jimmy Evans, said that in marriage, it's so weird that the people who are the best at it often are the novices, the newlyweds. He said it should not be that way because as you get married, you should become wiser and grow in intimacy and understanding of your spouse. And so in combination with learning about communicating to a heart, I was also thinking about that, where I'm closer to a novice than I am to an expert, but I'm starting to get some experience. And so I want to combine experience from what I'd heard in marriage teachings, read in books, what I've heard from other couples who are way more experienced than me, and then also take from being a young married couple and the energy, the passion, the excitement from that, as well as watching even newer married couples than me and studying how they're doing it, and then combine those to end up with the best marriage possible. A marriage that does grow in intimacy and in closeness and depth of relationship with each other, with the maturity of having learned over time, but with all the passion and excitement of when you're first dating and you're working so hard to intrigue and excite and pull that person in to want to be with you all the time. And make sure that after securing the relationship, putting a ring on it, and then saying I do, building that beautiful covenant before the Lord that what God has put together, let no man separate. Showing that as God puts something together, it actually becomes more beautiful over time versus becomes boring, stagnant, and potentially even dying. And something that just really hit me hard was that when I'd heard about that, you're communicating to a heart, I was like, you know what? I feel as though I kind of, I for sure stopped doing that. And it was hard to kind of have that reality set in of, man, I've actually kind of been screwing up a little bit and hurting my wife's feelings at the heart level. And so I've been taking that, kind of going back through some of the old marriage teachings and even diving more into newer ones and asking the Lord and like actively putting as a filter in my mind that anytime I come into a situation with my wife where I want to be very blunt and be very forward and bold in what I say, that no, I'm communicating to a heart. How would I speak directly if I could see past what I'm frustrated with into the heart that I ultimately want to reach and grow in closeness to? So I started adjusting the tone of my voice. And I mean, maybe you can't necessarily hear it through the podcast, but in person, I have a deeper voice. And I, over the past few years, have worked to speak a little bit higher because I heard so much. It's hard to understand you. You're talking so low. I know a whale could understand you, but I can't right now. Could you just write me an email? That sort of thing. But with that also comes like a very authoritative, firm sound that even if I'm not necessarily trying to be aggressive, can come across aggressively. And so I wanted to actually start listening to myself and how I spoke and figure out at which point does my brain start to trigger defensiveness and does my tone start changing? How does that sound? Catching myself in those moments and being like, no, don't get defensive here. Listen. Though, like, my wife's argument may be right, but she might be wrong. But what she's dealing with in that moment is real. It's real to her. And so listening to that, and honestly, through a lot of my conversations now, since I've started doing that, I'm going, Holy Spirit, please help me to understand. Using that filter, I'm about to communicate to a heart. What am I going to say? How can I respond and not getting defensive and then attacking? How can I listen and truly get to the depth of where the hurt is, what the core of the situation is, and the feeling, and then communicate to that in a loving way that inspires love and respect from my wife in return. And instead of causing the situation to exasperate, causing it to actually calm down. And it's been helping a lot to use that filter as a means of communicating with my wife in the loving, gentle way that I was communicating to her back when I was dating and trying to make her fall in love with me. And my wife been talking, and she said, I feel like things are going so much better than they were before. And that's been really fun to see as my wife and I have been becoming more and more playful again and a little bit more flirtatious, heading back into that flirting and playful nature of dating and engagement, but with the maturity and understanding of growing in marital years. And so to the listeners, to you guys today, whether you're married, engaged, dating, or you want to be married, or you're dealing with hard situations, when you're talking with someone, maybe even outside of just who you're in a relationship with in a romantic sense, but say another family member, a brother or a sister, or a mom or a dad or a grandma or a grandpa, or even a coworker or a friend, even a stranger, when you're communicating, when you're talking to a heart. And the Bible says that out of the heart flow the issues of life in Proverbs. And it also says that guard your heart with all diligence. And so everything that happens here affects everything that happens out here. That if you communicate aggressively or spitefully to this, everything out here all of a sudden gets kind of stained and darkens a little bit, unless the person has the maturity to just let those words roll off their back. But even then, those words kind of stick with them, and words have that weird way of when they come out, there's no way of taking them back. You can pray that they get removed, and the Lord does that. But you can also completely change the direction of someone's life by communicating light and kindness, generosity, love, respect to a heart in how you speak. A lot of that comes out in the tone that you choose, the words that you use, and your body language that goes along with it. That's something I've had to work on. My face communicates a lot. My wife thinks that's because I've tried to train different muscles, do different weird things, like this. I don't know how well you can see it. It probably looks really funny right now, but I'm doing like, at least to me, I think I'm doing like a Jack Black-ish wave with my eyebrows, but I had to teach myself how to do that and train the muscles. But I express a lot here. And so if I'm aggravated, it's kind of hard to hide it. And when I'm joyful, oddly, that is easier to hide. And I've become kind of monotone over the years. So I'm working on getting back to being more expressive in joy and not expressive in aggravation, but controlling that and keeping that to myself, not as like a means to let it fester and grow, but handing that off to the Lord to take care of. Now I can feel it and I can experience it, but I don't let that control me. And I go, okay, God, here's my feelings. And I know that these aren't from you, so I'm not going to take them on as mine. I just pass them off to you. And in that kind of recognition, they start to pass away. And then joy comes back in because I go, what are the characteristics of you? And all of a sudden I get love, peace, joy, understanding for what's going on, honoring feelings towards whoever it is I'm communicating with. And then all of a sudden the situation changes for me and my perspective adjusts to a right way so I can better communicate again to a heart in a way that I want to affect it moving forward. And so I realized a lot of this is kind of unfolded as a conversation has come. I'm kind of processing with you guys because I'm a verbal processor as well. And so that is kind of how things make sense to me as I talk through them. And then as it goes, it kind of feels like it releases whatever's going on in my mind to get let out. And then I like what's wrong gets thrown out, and then I can see what's wrong and get rid of it and talk on the right path towards the right end result. That was a mouthful of a lot of different things. But there's an important realization that has been helping me adjust in my marriage. It's been helping me to adjust in my communication with my kids. And now I'm looking at how that applies to like living with some of my siblings still and with my parents and my grandparents, because I'm communicating to their hearts. And if that is changing me, and I'm pretty stubborn from what I've heard from other people, but if that's changing someone stubborn like me, what can that do for you who's more pliable? That adjustment and just going, even if you don't believe in God, but just saying to yourself, I'm putting this as a filter in my mind that I'm communicating to a heart. Every time I have a communication that's harder, I remember that. So how do I talk to that person in a way that I would then want them to return in communication to me? and see how that goes. And just let me know. Like, leave a comment, message us, whatever you want to do to let me know if that's helpful or not. Because another thing I want to do this year is kind of take you guys through realizations and things I'm learning in my life as a young husband and dad, as a brother, as a son, as a grandson, as a friend, as an entrepreneur, as a musician, and just bring you guys into the life of a Medin. We go through all the same processes. There's something we didn't know, and now we know, and we have to go through a process of learning and applying it into our lives, and then finding ways to make it work in communication with each other and with other people, like you guys. And so, just getting you involved in that process and kind of take you through it. Especially as I learn things, I get really excited, especially as and I realize I'm saying especially a lot, but when I'm getting on the right path, because like, oh my gosh, here's a life-changing realization that I've just had, and it is life-changing, and that's life-changing for that moment, and then I'll have another life-changing realization, because each realization that's good, that enables you to be a blessing and to help and encourage other people, is a life-changing realization. And I used to think, I love movies. And movies always made those learnings and those things that heroes learned in that moment, or just whoever the main character is in the movie, whether it be a rom-com or an action flick or something. It's this big, massive moment that has now set me on a new trajectory in life. And then you get to the end of the movie, and they like embrace, or they hug, or they kiss, or they give each other a solid high five, and you're like, yeah. But those moments are small. A lot of them happen right over here on the corner of this couch, early in the morning when I'm reading my Bible, and then writing what I'm learning about. And I have these new realizations, and I'm able to go into the day with something new information, new wisdom, to better myself, to better my marriage, and to better my kids and my family as a whole. And hopefully even to better welcome to Medins and everyone that I interact with moving forward. So, welcome to my thought process. And I will take you guys through more of my writings and things I'm learning. And I'm actually quite excited about it, because I'm also looking forward to getting to outwardly process it. A lot of it's just in writing right now, but I'm looking forward to verbalizing it, because I think it'll bring even more clarity to things for me, which would be nice. But it also helped me to be a better host for Welcome to Medins, and just be better for you guys as an encourager. Because when you guys listen to Welcome to Medins, I want you to, one, be entertained, but I want you to walk away from each episode being encouraged. Because that's what this is about, is encouraging you guys through myself, my family, the Medins, the Lexvolds, the Greenwoods, Deborah when she gets married, the Gilberts, and pull you guys into that. And then it's welcome to your last name. Welcome to your name. Welcome to your name. Where it just opens up your family in a new light to bring more people in and help them through things that they're going through, and then lift them up and take them further in life. I don't know about you, but I love artwork, especially anything kind of retro style. But I'm also a huge fan of Formula One. If you like both of those things, I'd encourage you to check out our partner, The Old Art House. So if you want to be a part of that, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, press follow, leave us some reviews, because that will immensely help us in our rankings there, which would be great for growing. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, because we'll be announcing more videos, more activities, more content coming, and we can continue to help bring you guys up and encourage you to bring you and play a part. Not that we get you there, but I get to hopefully be a step of encouragement in the right direction. So, welcome to Medins.